This one is the test paper from chapter 1 to chapter 10 test. First, mention a doubt in MCQs. You have 25 MCQs. Mention a question in which you have doubt. Which piece of apparatus should be used to measure exactly 21.4 cm cube? Look, if you are using a beaker is accurate to whole number. Like example, 50 cm cube beaker. You have 50 cm cube beaker, 100 cm cube beaker. A pipette, 25 cm cube pipette can only measure one volume, and that is 25 here. A burette, a 50 cm cube burette, this is a maximum value, but burette, on the burette, the smallest value which burette can read is 0.1 centimeter cube. Means if there is 10 and then there is 11, so between 10 and 11 that will be 10.1, 10.2, 10.3. So which instrument can be used to measure this 21.4 or 0.1 cm cube accurately? So that is burette. A measuring cylinder, again, it will record a whole number. So that's why C should be the right answer. Because a beaker will not measure accurately, we want to measure it accurately as possible. So we use a burette, and burette can measure 0.1 cm cube accurately. Question 8. Iron 3 sulfate react with sodium hydroxide to form a red-brown precipitate. What is the balance equation? Include the state symbols. So first thing, iron 3 sulfate solution, a solution of iron. So it should be aqueous. Here it is written liquid, and here also it's written liquid. So these two cannot be an answer. Then you should know the correct formula for iron 3 sulfate. So iron 3 sulfate, if iron is +3 and sulfate, which is SO4, -2. So when you cross multiply, the iron 3 sulfate formula will be Fe2 SO4 in a bracket 3. So which is a right equation for iron sulfate? So only C is the right equation. So first we cancel out, because I mentioned solution of iron 3 sulfate. Solution means it should be soluble or aqueous. So just we work out first two wrong answers, and then we write the formula for iron 3 sulfate, and we can simply identify then what will be the correct answer for this. Any other question in this? MCQs, question 15. In question 15, the graph shows how the pH of a solution changes as an acid is added to an alkali. So in the beginning you have alkali. Which letter represent area of a graph when both acid and salt are present? So if acid and salt, so acid should have a pH less than 7. So what should be the right answer? It will be D. It means alkali is completely used up and you're left with acid. So acid should have a pH less than 7. The only answer for pH less than 7 is D. That's why D is the right answer. In question 16, which statement describe a weak acid? So which statement describe a weak acid which ionize acids? The term acid means proton donors. So it is a proton donor and it is partially ionized in an aqueous solution. So that's why D is a right answer.
Sir, question number 14, please.
The rate of a reaction between calcium carbonate, chips, and hydrochloric acid is studied by collecting a volume of a gas release in 1 minute at different temperatures. So we are changing a temperature. We are finding how much volume of a gas is released. Which statement fully explain why increase in temperature, or which statement fully explain why increasing a temperature has this effect on the rate? So when you increase the temperature, what happens? The particle will have more energy and they will collide more often, or the particles will have most of the particle will have energy more than activation. That's why they will result in a formation of faster product. So
Why it's not A?
kinetic energy of a particle increase, so the collisions are harder, means difficult to collide if kinetic energy is more. If the
Oh, I
kinetic,
thought it's harder means stronger. I thought that.
like hitting it harder.
Yeah, I thought
No,
that.
here it means collisions are harder, means difficult to collide.
Yeah, okay.
Then question number 17. The apparatus show is used to prepare copper sulfate. So we want to prepare copper sulfate solution. What are X and Y? Copper with iron sulfate. If I use copper with iron sulfate, copper is less reactive. So copper cannot displace this iron from its solution. So there is no reaction between them. So the A cannot be an answer. Copper chloride plus sulfuric acid. If I use copper chloride plus dilute sulfuric acid, or H2SO4, so we don't, what will happen? Because when we add this, copper chloride is there added to sulfuric acid, what it result? It will result in a formation of copper sulfate solution plus HCl. But the thing is that copper sulfate is soluble, HCl is also aqueous, so how something will left on the filter paper? So it will not left on the filter paper. There will be nothing left on the filter paper. So this cannot be an answer. When metal oxide or copper oxide react with sulfuric acid, so metal oxide, the unreacted metal oxide will be left on the filter paper. And this is a salt with acid. Actually, how to prepare a salt, as you discussed, that if you want to prepare a soluble salt, aqueous means soluble salt. So how we can prepare a soluble salt? We can react acid with, so if you want to prepare the soluble salt, what are the methods? Acid plus metal, acid plus metal oxide, acid plus metal carbonate, and acid plus alkali. But we want to prepare a copper salt because the copper is not reacting directly with dilute acid. So the first method is not suitable with copper. Why? Because if you have copper and dilute sulfuric acid, copper does not react with acid, dilute acid. That's why there is no reaction between them. So that's why the second reaction, acid plus metal oxide or copper oxide plus sulfuric acid, this will result in a formation of copper sulfate solution plus water. Is it clear? So the answer was copper oxide plus dilute sulfuric acid. Any other question, MCQ, doubt? 18. Lead sulfate is insoluble salt. So how to prepare insoluble salt? Insoluble salt are prepared by mixing two salt solutions or mixing two salts together. Soluble salt. So mix aqueous lead nitrate with potassium sulfate. If I add lead nitrate with potassium sulfate, we want to produce lead sulfate. So we mix lead nitrate with potassium sulfate, and when they react with each other, heat to evaporate. We don't use evaporation here. Why we don't use evaporation? Because when you have two solutions, salt solutions, you mix the two salt solutions, and the moment you mix the two salt solutions, what this result? This result in a formation of insoluble salt. So what you will have precipitate. So solution will be there, but inside the solution a solid is formed, and this solid is known as PPT or precipitate. So how we remove this insoluble? We'll use filtration. So we can use lead nitrate and dilute sulfuric acid, lead sulfate. Then this result we will filter, then wash and dry the residue. The residue will be lead sulfate. Why the first cannot be used? Why second cannot be used? If you use lead nitrate plus potassium sulfate, it will give lead sulfate. And filter and collect the filtrate. You don't have to use filtrate here because this is not a soluble salt. So from soluble salt, you do crystallization or evaporation from the filtrate, not here. And titrate lead hydroxide with sulfuric acid and crystallize. That's again wrong because this method is used to prepare soluble salt. So only correct answer is C here, which shows that salt is insoluble. So you will filter and dry. Question 10. Electrolysis of copper to sulfate using inert electrode. Which statement about the reaction? So copper to sulfate is there. It contains copper ion. It contains sulfate ion, hydrogen ion, and hydroxide ion. Copper ions are positive, so they are attracted towards, and less reactive, so attracted towards cathode. So when copper ions are attracted towards cathode, so copper ions will gain 2 electrons and change into copper atom. And hydroxide ion will move there at anode. So when four OH ions will move there, they will lose 4 electrons. This result in giving oxygen and water molecules. So copper ion, the copper ion gain electron at a negative and they will turn into copper atom. Any other doubt in MCQs from question 1 to 25? This was a test paper. Question 15. Acid and alkali are added. This gives salt and water. In the question, they're saying which letter represent area of a graph where both acid and salt are there. If acid is there, acids have pH less than 7. So which point is having pH less than 7? Point D is having pH less than 7. Yeah, what? Yeah, what is the meaning? It has both acid and salt. It means, look, you have a container which is filled with alkali. They mentioned in the beginning it is filled with alkali. And now what you're doing, you're adding acid. So the moment you're adding acid, what happened? Amount of alkali is decreasing. So pH is decreasing. Once pH is 7, it means all of the acid reacted with an alkali. But if you, and when acid is reacting with alkali, this alkali is used up, means alkali will not there, and you're continuously adding acid. So if you're continuously adding acid, means salt is already there, which is formed by a reaction between acid and alkali, and further addition of acid does not cause any reaction. It only change the pH of the solution. That is why further addition of acid, you will have a mixture of acid and salt. If a solution contain an acid, acidic solutions have a pH less than 7. That's why D was the answer for this. Which property is shown by all metals? They all extracted by heating with carbon. They are extracted from the ore by heating with carbon. They conduct, all metals cannot be extracted by carbon. Like example, more reactive metals such as potassium oxide or its compound, you cannot heat with carbon. So they all conduct electricity. They form acidic oxide? No. Some metals like aluminum, lead, and zinc form amphoteric oxides. Other form basic oxides. They react with hydrochloric acid. Not all of the acid react with hydrochloric acid. Some of them react, some does not react. And all of the metal cannot be heated with carbon to extract the metal from their ore. That's why D is also not a right answer. Sodium nitrate, you have to learn this table. When you heat sodium nitrate, we discussed thermal decomposition of nitrates. So potassium and sodium nitrate, when you supply heat energy, what this result? This result in a formation of sodium nitrite plus oxygen. This is a decomposition of sodium nitrate. Sodium nitrate on heating decompose into sodium nitrite plus oxygen. Same thing, potassium nitrate decompose into potassium nitrite plus oxygen. So solid product will be sodium nitrite and it will give oxygen. This is related to the table, learning a table of thermal decomposition of metal nitrates. Any other question, MCQs doubt related to this test? $24. Molten iron from a blast furnace contain impurities. So the iron which we extract from the blast furnace, it has impurities. The process of turning the impure iron into steel is blowing the oxygen into a molten iron and adding calcium oxide. What are the reasons for blowing oxygen? What is the reason why we blow oxygen? So what oxygen will do, oxygen will react with carbon and this will form carbon dioxide. So as this will form carbon dioxide gas will escape. This is converting iron into steel. So iron which is there in the blast furnace, it's not a pure iron. It contains other impurities such as silicon, phosphorus, carbon, majority. So when we blow oxygen, oxygen react with carbon, form carbon dioxide. So carbon is removed by reacting with oxygen. And what is the purpose of calcium oxide? Calcium oxide is a basic oxide and it reacts with acidic oxide, which is silicon oxide or sand. And this result in a formation of slag. So react with acidic impurities and make a slag. So A is the right answer for this. Any other doubt in these MCQs? Then structure questions, if no doubt in MCQ, you can mention if you still have doubt in MCQ. Otherwise, structure questions. Mention a question with a part which you have doubt. Question 2C1 and 2. Write a chemical equation. Look, when we heat metal nitrates, again, this is related to memorizing the product. So whenever metal nitrates are heated, it will give metal nitrite plus nitrogen dioxide plus oxygen. So supplying heat energy to magnesium nitrate. This will result in a formation of magnesium metal oxide. From calcium till copper, they all decompose into metal oxide plus nitrogen dioxide plus oxygen. Below copper, they decompose into metal plus nitrogen dioxide plus oxygen. Above calcium, like potassium and sodium, it decomposes into metal nitrite, means potassium and sodium nitrite plus oxygen. So this will result in a formation of nitrogen dioxide plus oxygen. Then balance this equation. We always try to balance oxygen. So 3 multiplied by 2, 6. So 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. So we have to balance oxygen. So 2, 2, 4. Here I have 1, so I put 2. Oxygen is balanced. Then when I put 2 here, because the order is for start balancing with oxygen, followed by hydrogen and then other elements. It's up to you. So we balance oxygen, other element, hydrogen is not there. Then we can select any order. Then you have magnesium. 2 magnesium on the right hand side, 1 magnesium. So you put 2. Magnesium is balanced. But when you try to balance magnesium, again oxygen is unbalanced. So you have to again balance oxygen. So how to balance oxygen? 3 multiplied by 2, 6. And multiply by 2, that's equal to 12. So we need 12. So if I put 4 here, 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12. So this equation is balanced in terms of nitrogen, magnesium, oxygen. The next part they ask, what type of reaction is this? Whenever you have only one reactant and more products, if a chemical reaction involves only one reactant and more product, this type of reaction is known as thermal decomposition. Thermal decomposition are always endothermic reactions because by supplying heat energy, You break down the substance. So whenever, if any reaction is thermal decomposition, it is always endothermic. Yes?
So what to write here? Thermal decomposition or endothermic reaction?
Thermal decomposition. Type of reaction, thermal decomposition.
All right.
And what I am saying, thermal decompositions are always endothermic reaction. They always absorb energy. Because
Yes,
yeah.
but he asked what type of reaction.
Yeah,
The
what type
question
of
said
reaction?
this
Like
is endothermic.
oxidation. That when normally the type of a reaction which we say oxidation, reduction, thermal decomposition, substitution, neutralization. These are the types of the reaction. Endothermic and exothermic reactions only if they say what type of reaction in terms of energy, then you say it's or identify whether reaction is endothermic or exothermic. That case you write.
All right.
Otherwise, you mention substitution, neutralization, combustion, decomposition, displacement. These are the types of the reactions. And two other compounds of magnesium that form magnesium oxide when heated. So if like example, you have magnesium nitrate, same thing. If you have magnesium carbonate, when you supply heat energy, it will give magnesium oxide plus carbon dioxide. Magnesium hydroxide, when you heat, it will give magnesium oxide plus steam or water vapors. Question 3C2. Complete the reaction, complete the equation between a reaction of sodium hydroxide with dilute sulfuric acid. So what it will result, this is a neutralization reaction when alkali and acid are reacting. Sodium will take position of hydrogen. So it will form sodium sulfate. What is the formula for sodium sulfate? Sodium is group 1 and sulfate is with a charge valency of -2. So formula of sodium sulfate will be Na2SO4. So this will be Na2SO4 and plus H2O. Because when acid react with alkali, it will result in a formation of salt and water. So we put 2 here to balance hydrogen and oxygen. All are balanced. Is it clear? Any other doubt? Any other question if you have doubt? Is there any other question? 4B4. 4B4 has atom with only 7 protons. 7 proton means atomic number 7. Which element is having atomic number 7? In this, lithium is 3, beryllium is 4, boron is 5, carbon is 6, nitrogen 7, oxygen 8, fluorine 9, and neon 10. So nitrogen is having 7 proton. That's why N is the answer here. Six E. Explain how sodium hydroxide is formed during this electrolysis. Because you are doing electrolysis of concentrated sodium chloride. So when you are doing concentrated sodium chloride, so what happened? The chloride ions discharge towards anode and hydrogen ion discharge towards cathode. So what we are left with? We are left with NaOH. That's why this result in a formation of alkaline solution. That was a question like why the solution will turn into sodium hydroxide. So you will mention chloride ion and hydroxide ion. Chloride ion move towards cathode anode and form chlorine molecule or chlorine gas. Hydrogen ion attracted towards cathode, form hydrogen gas. So in the solution, we are left with sodium hydroxide or NaOH. Any other question? This was question 6, part E. Yeah, this was 6E. I was discussing 6, part E, that why a sodium hydroxide is formed during this electrolysis, because chloride ion will move towards anode. It will form chlorine gas. Hydrogen ion attracted towards cathode, form hydrogen gas. So you are left with NaOH. That's why it will turn. Any other doubt in this test from chapter 1 to chapter 8? So no doubt. Okay.